I can edit it too, I just realized that. Alright, so I'm going to be explaining to you the concept of static charge and shock. So basically, what you need to understand is that everything in the world has a charge, and it consists, or it can be broken down into three different particles: a proton, an electron, and a neutron. And any object can change charge by either gaining or losing electrons. Only the electrons move. The atom, or the protons, are bound to the nucleus of the atom. So when an object either gains or loses electrons, it's called an ion, and therefore changes its charge. So if it loses electrons, it gets a positive charge because there's more protons, and it naturally has a positive bias charge. And when it gains electrons, it's negative, and that actually usually means that it has more energy because there's more electrons going around the cloud. And charge cannot be created or destroyed, kind of like energy. It's just transferred, and there's different types of transfer. And if something has the same negative charge, two objects are brought together, they're going to repel each other. Whereas, like with these, you can see, as we did in our experiment. Oh, you can't even see me. And you can see in our experiment, we rubbed them. It was a simulation. We rubbed them on on a sweater, and you could see how the electrons transferred from the sweater to the surface of the balloon. And then if you let the balloon go, it would go to the wall. It's not doing it right now, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it. But it would do that. And when they had the same charge, they would kind of repel each other. And do it like this. See, they go away from each other, but they won't stick to my sweatshirt. So the different types, and that's called charging by friction. That's one of the different ways you can transfer charge between two different objects. Another way that you can do it is by conduction, and that usually is when it is moved through like a conductor. And that can most commonly be found like with batteries or outlets, stuff like that, wires, because the copper is a conductor, and the charge moves through a path because it's going on a line, right? Right, yeah. Okay. And then there's charge by induction, and that means that the object is polarized, and that's when the balloon's on the wall, because the wall has its own charge, and the balloon has its own. After being rubbed on the sweater, it has too many electrons, so it's polarized to that because the opposite. So the electrons in there rearrange themselves for the balloon to stick. It actually showed it in the simulation. It was actually kind of cool. I never realized that. But they were still there. They just rearranged themselves so more protons were apparent, and the electrons in the balloon, or on the surface of the balloon, held it on the wall. And that was pretty cool. So that is the basic concept of it in 3 minutes, 4 minutes.